Am I? Can I get some response? Okay, thank you, Nitish. So, okay. Right. So I'm just going to start with the last chapter under class 11 syllabus. Okay, that is about the human physiology. Okay, quite a very interesting chapter and the much awaited chapter. Most of us will be very much eager to learn about this unit, isn't it? Because most of us are NEET aspirants and we wish to become doctors, isn't it? So this chapter seems to be like this unit, the entire unit seems to be very much interesting and what to say, it would be of more informative and it would be knowledgeable all throughout your life. Okay, so without much delay, so I believe I can, you people can see my presentation also. Can you? Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so fine. Let me start. So that is about human physiology, and under human physiology, I'm going to start with the first module, that is digestion and absorption. Okay, so digestion and absorption is our topic for the day. Let me see whether I will be able to finish the entire topic. I don't believe I can be able to finish the entire topic, but let us at least concentrate on the first part, that is about the anatomy of a digestive system. Okay, and then we will move on to the functions. Okay, how the process of digestion is happening and what are all the events associated with the process. Okay, so basically when you talk about digestion and absorption, okay, what comes to your mind is the term which is called as nutrition. Okay, nutrition. So when we take nutrition, okay, the nutritions could be in the form of carbohydrates or proteins or lipids or the minerals or the vitamins or whatever it is. Okay, all these elements, they get into our body, okay, and those complex materials has to be converted into their simplest form, and that is what is called as digestion. I hope you all accept with this, isn't it? So digestion is the process of conversion of a huge molecule or a huge macromolecule into the simplest form. Okay, and that happens in our digestive system. When you look at our nutrition, okay, I can basically define nutrition like this. Nutrition is the process, okay, of intaking or taking in of food and converting it into energy and other vital nutrients required for life. Okay, the food that we take, okay, ultimately should yield us some energy, isn't it? So when we feel hungry, okay, we take up some food so that we feel energetic. Okay, we can't live without food, isn't it? So we can even live without food for at least 2 3 days, but not without water. Okay, so it is a concept, it is a basic ideology. So when you look at nutrition, it basically means the process of taking in of food and converting it into energy and other vital elements that are required for our growth and development of our body. Okay, so before I start with my presentation, I will just highlight on the different aspects of nutrition, and then it would be nice if I move on to the further structures. Okay, so you can answer me if I ask you some questions. It would be nice if you people also interact and give me some answers. Okay, so when you look at nutrition, there are basically two different types of nutrition. Can someone name me what are the two different types of nutrition? These are certain basics that we have been learning from our lower classes. Yes, children, can you?
Micronutrition.
Macronutrition and micronutrition. Okay, Neha, what you were saying is about the different types of nutrients. What you mean was nutrients. My question was nutrition. It is a basic term, okay, and it is a broad term that specifies two different modes of nutrition. Okay, a simple clue is you can just imagine about the modes of nutrition in plants as well as the modes of nutrition in animals. Then you will come to a conclusion. When you talk about nutrients, there are different types of nutrients. Yes, of course. Yes, Disha, you are right. Okay, so you have autotrophic as well as the heterotrophic mode of nutritions. Okay, so coming back to Neha, as you said, micronutrients and macronutrients, of course. Okay, macronutrients are the complex nutrients like the carbohydrates, proteins, and the lipids. Whereas micronutrients are the nutrients that you require only in trace amounts. Okay, when compared to macronutrients, micronutrients are required only in less quantity. Okay, like for example, vitamins as well as minerals. Okay, they are required only in lesser amount, and that's why it is called as micronutrient. Okay, we'll talk about that later, but now I will just explain you this two modes of nutrition, which is the autotrophic mode of nutrition as well as the heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Okay, so this is all the child's play, isn't it? So you should be learning this from your lower classes. உங்க சின்ன கிளாஸஸ்ல இருந்து நீங்க இத பத்தி ரொம்ப நேரம் படிச்சிருப்பீங்க, but still, okay, I just want to recollect it. When you look at autotrophic mode of nutrition, you see organisms use very, very simple matters like water, carbon dioxide, okay, and also with the presence of light and chlorophyll, they synthesize their own food material. Okay, so very good example is the green plants. Okay, the green plants have a green colored pigment in their leaves, which is called as the chlorophyll. Okay, auto refers to something doing it by ourselves. Okay, not depending on something but doing something by ourselves. It is the self dependence. Okay, we are self dependent. Okay, so that is what is auto. Auto refers to self. Okay, hetero means it is something dependent. Hetero refers to different. Okay, it is relying on something else. So autotrophic mode of nutrition is basically the nutrition of green plants because they prepare their own food, okay, from very simple organic or inorganic matters like water or carbon dioxide and in the presence of sunlight basically. Okay, and when you look at the process of photosynthesis, you know, carbon dioxide and water, okay, and carbon dioxide and water, they get converted to sugars, isn't it, like carbohydrates, and these carbohydrates would be stored in the plant. Do you know what is storage form of carbohydrate in the plants? Can someone tell me what is the storage form of carbohydrates in plants? How is the carbohydrates getting stored up in the plants? Can someone tell me? Very good, starch. Okay, starch is the storage form of carbohydrate, and here you see the process of making up of this starch or carbohydrate is what is called as photosynthesis. This is simply means synthesis in the presence of light. Photo refers to light, especially the light from the sunlight. Okay, so photosynthesis is the synthesis from light. Okay, and you know, this starch is not utilized every time within the body of the plant. Okay, it would be utilized only at specific times when it is required. Okay, so plants, they derive this energy, the stored up energy, whenever it requires. Okay, so this process can be simply explained in three different stages. One is absorption. The first basic process is absorption, followed by conversion, and then the last step is reduction. So in detail, you should have been learning these things in the previous chapter, that is in the unit 4, I believe. Okay, the three major processes involved in the process of photosynthesis. Just give me a second. Somebody's trying to join. Okay, Afrin. Okay. Good evening, Afrin. Nahida, good evening, dear. Hope you are all doing good. All right. Okay. So I am, okay, somebody is also joining. Darshini. Good evening, Darshini.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. Very good evening. Very good evening. And I believe you people are fine and doing good. All right. So, good evening. Good evening, children. I am just in unit number 5, okay, and under that the first chapter, which is digestion and absorption. Okay, I just started with a basic introduction and I just started explaining about different modes of nutrition. Okay, so I was talking autotrophic mode of nutrition. So the autotrophic mode of nutrition is basically performed by the green plants because they can prepare their own food. Okay, and that process is what is called as photosynthesis with the help of certain organic and inorganic materials like water as well as carbon dioxide, and also in the presence of sunlight and a pigment which is called as chlorophyll. Okay, all these entities will enable the plants to synthesize their own food. They are not dependent upon anything for obtaining their nutrition. They can prepare their nutrition, or they can prepare their food by themselves, and that is what is called as autotrophic mode of nutrition. So let me continue. When you look at this autotrophic mode of nutrition, there are three basic events that are happening. Number 1, absorption. Number 2, it is conversion, and the last step is the reduction process. Okay, so when you look at absorption, okay, somebody has given me some message in the chat box. Okay, okay, nothing. All right. So the first event that is happening in the process of photosynthesis is absorption. And during this process of absorption, what happens is, the green leaves that contain chlorophyll. Okay, chlorophylls are the molecules. They are the pigments that trap the light from the sun. Okay, chlorophyll molecules, they are the entities that are able to trap the sunlight. Okay, so that is the first process. First process is what is absorption, and what is absorbed here is the sunlight. Okay, and the chlorophyll molecules are responsible for the absorption of this sunlight. Next process is conversion. Okay, what happens in this step is the light energy that is absorbed will be converted to a chemical energy. Okay, so here it is a conversion process that is happening. That is, the light energy is getting converted to chemical energy. Okay, and the water that is taken up will be split. Okay, water is H2O, will be split into two molecules. That is, one is hydrogen and the other one is the oxygen. Okay, water gets split up. And do you know what is this process called as the splitting up of water? There is a term that is used to mention this splitting up of water. Are you all there? Are you following me? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can you define me what is the process of the splitting of water called as? Hydrolysis. Okay, hydrolysis. Hydrolysis is the splitting of water in terms of chemistry. Okay, good evening, Aparna. Okay, so you call it as photolysis. Photolysis. Okay, photolysis of water is the conversion, or it is the splitting up of water. Photolysis. Okay, photolysis. So here you see the water molecules are getting splitted up into hydrogen and the oxygen molecules. Okay, so here is the conversion process, that is the light energy is getting converted to chemical energy. Okay, and at last you have a process which is called as reduction. Okay, and during this process, reduction is something addition of hydrogen molecules. Okay, addition of hydrogen ions is what is called as reduction. Okay, or removal of oxygen. Okay, and during this process, carbon dioxide that is inside, that is taken inside, is getting reduced. Okay, means the hydrogen molecules will combine with the carbon to form simple sugars, okay, like carbohydrates, which get stored up as starch. Okay, so these are the three basic processes that are taking place in the process of photosynthesis. Number one, it is absorption, where light is getting trapped by the chlorophyll molecules. Number two, it is conversion, where this light energy is getting converted into a chemical energy. And at last, it is reduction, where the carbon dioxide gets reduced by the combination of hydrogen molecules into simple sugars. Okay, and it gets stored up as starch. Okay, and basically the equation of carbon dioxide, the photosynthesis reaction, I don't want to repeat it, but just I'll just highlight on it. It is 6 molecules of carbon dioxide plus 12 molecules of water gets converted to the sugar molecule. Okay, and can you give me the formula for this carbohydrates or starch molecule? Any one of you? These are all very simple things that we have learned from our lower classes. Yes, quick.
C6H12O6.
Yes, it is the carbohydrate, and it is C6H12O6. And you have 6 molecules of oxygen getting evolved, as well as 6 molecules of water also getting evolved. All right. So when you look at these processes are not continuous processes. Okay. Please, you will have to highlight on this because you might get questions on this. Okay. We may think that every time photosynthesis is taking place, and every time starch is getting synthesized, and every time the process of reduction is also happening, but it is not the case. And all these 3 events, it is a discontinuous process, and they may take place, they may or may not take place sequentially. Okay, so sometimes the leaves may perform photosynthesis, and sometimes the leaves may not perform photosynthesis. And there are certain structures which are called as the stomata on the surface of the leaves. Okay, the opening of the stomata, okay, will allow the carbon dioxide molecules to enter into the leaves. Okay, and these stomatal pores are responsible for the intake and release of gases. Okay, they are the sites where exchange of gases take place in the case of plants. Okay, these are known things. Okay, and during daytime, okay, the pores could be open, and during night the pores could remain closed, but that is different in the case of desert plants. Okay, in the desert plants, with the aim of conserving water, okay, just to safeguard the water that they have, or to avoid water, the stomatal pores would remain closed during the daytime. Okay, and at the night time they may be open. Okay, so that they may absorb some amount of carbon dioxide and store them in their vacuoles. Okay, that's with desert plants. But in the case of terrestrial plants, at the time of photosynthesis, that is mainly during the daytime, the stomatal pores so that carbon dioxide can enter inside. Okay, and other than photosynthesis, plants are also dependent on the soil for taking up certain as well as minerals. Okay, and these minerals, these mineral elements.
Yes, ma'am.
How about now?
Now clear, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am.
Am I okay now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it fine?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes or no? Just give me a response. Am I audible to all of you now? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
I am unable to response from you. Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am,
Hello,
you're
students,
audible.
can you hear me? Am I okay now? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am, you're
Okay,
audible.
yes. So I was talking about the micro and the macro elements. So
Yes,
other
ma'am.
than photosynthesis, plants also depend on the soil for taking up certain micro as well as the macro minerals. Okay, and these minerals like sodium, potassium, or nitrogen, okay, they are essential for the plants to produce or synthesize proteins and other essential compounds that are required for their functioning and the growth. Okay, so all these are very important when you look at autotrophic mode of nutrition. Okay, when you look at the second mode of nutrition, that is the heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Okay, and you see heterotrophic modes of nutrition, all living organisms, they cannot prepare their own food other than plants. Okay, so we depend, other than autotrophs, the plants, other organisms, they depend upon other living organisms for their food. Okay, and such organisms which cannot produce their food and are dependent on other sources of organisms for their food, they are called as heterotrophs. Okay, and what is the mode of nutrition in fungi? Fungi, you should have heard about fungi, isn't it? Can you tell me what is the mode of nutrition in fungi? It is quite interesting. It is saprophytic. Okay, okay, ma'am, I am in the same presentation. I'm just in the introduction. Okay, I have not gone into the topic straight away. No worries. Okay, I believe I'm clear to all of you. Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Just give me some
Yes, ma'am.
response, children. Okay. Okay. So fine. Heterotrophic organisms, they depend on other organisms for their food. Okay, so when you look at heterotrophs, they are again classified into three different categories, like the parasites, saprophytes, and the holozoics. Okay, so when you look at parasites, okay, parasites, they depend on other living organisms for their food and shelter. Okay, like the leeches, the ticks, the mites. Okay, all these organisms are parasites. They depend on a living organism. Whereas when you look at saprophytes, okay, they depend on the dead and decaying organic matter for their nutrition. Saprophytes, okay, the fungal forms, the mushrooms, all these are examples of saprophytic mode of nutrition. Okay, holozoics. You know what is holozoic mode of nutrition? Okay, you know what is Holozoic mode of nutrition? Any one of you? Holozoic. What do you mean by Holozoic? Answers, please. What do you mean by Holozoic? Come on, answers, please. I couldn't get any response from you people. Are you all there? What do you mean by Holozoic? Have you ever come across this term, Holozoic? Yes?
No, ma'am.
Hello, children, are you there? In amoeba. Okay, Disha says in amoeba. Good, good Disha. Okay, so when you look at Holozoic, what do you mean by Holozoic basically? You know, taking up of complex substances and converting them into simpler substances is what is the Holozoic mode of nutrition. Okay, so Holozoic means it is an autotrophic mode of nutrition. Okay, and it involves the process of conversion of complex substances into simpler substances. Okay, so it is basically the conversion of complex substances into simpler substances. Okay, taking in of complex substances and converting it into simpler substances is what is called as the Holozoic mode of nutrition. And when we look at human beings come under this category of nutrition, which is Holozoic. Okay, so Holozoic is something taking in of a complex mixture of nutrients. Okay, our food is not restricted to one specific nutrient, isn't it? We don't alone take carbohydrates, or we don't alone take proteins, or we don't always take fats. Okay, in fact, our food is a mixture of all the nutrients, isn't it? We take more of proteins, a little bit less carbohydrates, and still lower fats for our nutritional requirements. Okay, so we take a complex mixture of food. Okay, and that complex mixture will be converted to its simpler forms, and that is what is called as Holozoic. Are you able to follow me? Yes or no? Did you understand this?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Holozoic, yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Holozoic is something, a complex mixture of nutrients, and it has to be converted to its simple forms. Okay, and when you look at human digestion, okay, human mode of nutrition is basically a Holozoic mode of nutrition. So with that introduction, with that little bit story about nutrition, I will get into my chapter, that is the process of digestion first. I'll explain you what is digestion, okay, in simple terms, and this is the definition for digestion. So here you go. It is the process of conversion of complex food substances into simple substrate or simple absorbable forms, and which can be easily assimilated, which can be easily taken up. Okay, and that is what is digestion. So the process of conversion of complex food substances. Okay, conversion. Okay, here a process that is happening, and that is what is called as conversion. Okay, so when you look at digestion, digestion starts right from your mouth. Okay, I will explain you. Right from your mouth, the process of digestion starts, and digestion is simply, it is the conversion. Okay, conversion means changing from one form to the other form. Okay, change of one state to the other state is what is called as conversion. So a complex food is getting converted to a simpler form. Okay, and that is what is called as digestion. Okay, and when you look at this process, this is carried out in our digestive system. Okay, and there are two important processes that are taking place. One is the mechanical process, and the other one, it is the biochemical process. There are two methodologies by which the process of digestion is accomplished. One is through the mechanical process, and the other one, it is through biochemical process. Okay, we will proceed. So this is basically a digestive system. Okay, so your digestive system starts right from your mouth. Okay, so from the mouth you have the cavity, which is called as the oral cavity, and where you have the associated glands called as the salivary glands. Okay, so there are three lobes: the parotid glands, the parotid, submandibular, and the sublingual glands, which are over here. And then following the oral cavity, you have a structure which is called as pharynx, and below the pharynx you have a tubular structure, okay, which is the food pipe, and that is what is called as esophagus. Esophagus, which lead to a bag-like structure, and that is what is called the stomach. Okay, and surrounding your stomach you have the accessory digestive glands, okay, like the liver, okay, and the gallbladder, and below your stomach you have a leaf-like structure which is called as pancreas, and following your stomach you have the small intestine, okay, and your small intestine has different parts in it, and after your small intestine you have the large intestine, and your large intestine also has different parts in it, the colon, rectum, and the anus, and the system ends with an opening to the outside, which is the anus. Okay, so this structure is simple and we should be learning this from our lower classes, but in detail, okay, we are going to learn the process of digestion in detail. How is the process of mechanical events as well as the biochemical events taking place in the alimentary canal. So basically when you look at the digestive system, okay, it is mainly concerned with two different structures. One is the alimentary canal and the other one, it is the associated glands. Okay, so there are two basic structures, the alimentary canal, which is the digestive system, and the glands that are associated with the digestive system. All right, so when you look at the alimentary canal, where does your alimentary canal start from? Your alimentary canal begins with an anterior opening, and that is what is called as the mouth. Okay, so it is the opening to the outside, and it opens posteriorly through the anus. So mouth is in the anterior region and anus is in the posterior region. Okay, so mouth is the starting point and anus is the ending point. And when you look at the mouth, it leads to a cavity which is called as the buccal cavity, and this buccal cavity is also called as oral cavity. Okay, so mouth leads to buccal cavity or oral cavity, and inside the oral cavity you have a number of hard structures, okay, and these structures are what are called as the teeth, okay, teeth, and there is an associated structure also there which is called as the muscular tongue. Okay, so tongue has different taste buds in it, so it helps in tasting the food. Okay, it is a sense organ which helps to taste our food. And when you look at our tooth, okay, it seems the tooth is getting embedded in a socket of our jawbone. Okay, so there is a specific site for each of the tooth to get embedded onto the socket which is associated with the jawbone. Okay, we will learn this when we learn about locomotion and movement, where we will come across different parts of our skeletal system. All right, so this type of attachment or the teeth getting embedded onto the socket of our jaw is what is called as thecodont. Okay, so human dentition is a thecodont type. Okay, means you have attached teeth. Okay, teeth seems to get attached onto the socket of the joint. So look at this. This is how it resembles. So you have different types of teeth, and you see they get attached onto the sockets, means there are specific regions for the teeth to get attached. Okay, each of the teeth will have a specific place or a specific region into which it can get attached or into which it can get fixed up. Okay, and that regions are what are called as the sockets. So sockets are the regions which are located in the jaw, okay, of our skull, of our bone, skull bone, and there you have specific regions for each of the teeth to get embedded or to get fixed up. All right, when you look at majority of human beings, okay, not majority of the mammals, okay, including human beings, okay, there are two sets of teeth that are developed during their lifetime. Okay, the first set of teeth is what is called as the temporary teeth or the milk teeth. It is also called as the deciduous teeth. Okay, deciduous means, please have it in mind, it is a fall. Deciduous trees, you should have heard about deciduous trees which could shed their leaves. Okay, deciduous refers to something which could fall, okay, which is not permanent. So there are two sets of teeth. One is the temporary milk teeth or the deciduous teeth, and this set of teeth will be replaced a set of permanent teeth, okay, which is the adult teeth. Okay, and this type of dentition where we have two sets of teeth, we call it technically as the diffidont teeth, okay, or diffidont type of dentition. Okay, so majority of the mammals including human beings, we develop two sets of teeth during our lifetime. One immediately after our birth, okay, like at the time of 6 months or 7 months, okay, the teeth start to emerge in the case of infants, and those teeth seems to be temporary, okay, because they fall off. Okay, they're called as the milk teeth. They're also called as the deciduous teeth. And this teeth is getting replaced by another set of teeth which is permanent, or the adult teeth. Okay, this type of tooth dentition, okay, that is what is dye. Dye refers to two types of dentitions in a lifetime of a person, is what is called as diffidont type of dentition. And when you look at human adults, there are 32 permanent teeth, okay, and which is of 4 different categories, of which is of 4 different types. Okay, all the teeth, they are not similar. Okay, they are not similar. All the 32 permanent teeth seems to be dissimilar. They are not similar in their structure as well as in their function. Okay, and this type of dentition we call it as heterodont. Hetero refers to a kind of variation or difference. Hetero means different basically. Okay, so it is what is heterodont dentition. Okay, so you see there are incisors, canines, premolars as well as molars. Okay, incisors, canines, premolars as well as the molars. So this arrangement of teeth in each half, that is on the upper jaw as well as on the lower jaw, is in the order of incisors, which are 2 in number, canine 1 in number, premolar 2 in number, and molar again 3 in number. Okay, and it is represented by a dental formula. You should be aware of this. That is 2123 by 2123. Okay, 2123 in the upper jaw and 2123 in the lower jaw. Okay, so you see the teeth is a structure which is very hard, okay, and it has an outer covering which is called as enamel. And the major role of teeth is mastication of food. Okay, mastication means it is just chewing or crushing or grinding of the food. Okay, only when the food is getting chewed up properly, okay, the food will get masticated. Okay, so mastication is making more complex form into a simpler form. Okay, you know, the hard structure which is the teeth will help in the process or will aid in the process of mastication. Okay, so masticatory bones, we have specific masticatory bones attached to our body. Okay, so we chew our food so that the food is getting crushed and it is ground. Okay, you know, this grounding process or this crushing process will increase the surface area of the foods and will also help in efficient action of digestive enzymes onto the food. Okay, so when you look at mastication, it is basically to grind or crush or to chew the food with the help of teeth, so that the food could be easily swallowed inside. Okay, you can't just take a piece of apple and just swallow inside. You will only have to bite it, make it into simpler forms, and then swallow it. Okay, so this process of mastication will soften the food. At the same time, it would reduce the pulpy content of the food, and this crushing process will enable in easy swallowing. Okay, so mastication is making or conditioning the food, conditioning of food, and that is aided by the chewing action of our teeth. Okay, so please remember when you look at our teeth, okay, so we have 2 different sets of teeth, okay, in our lifetime. When you look at human dentition, okay, it is a diffidont type because there are 2 sets of teeth. The milk teeth is getting replaced by the adult teeth, and there are 32 permanent teeth, okay, and there are 4 different types of uniform, and that is what is called the heterodont dentition. You have 1 incisor, you have 2 incisors, you have 1 canine, 2 premolars, and 1 molar. Okay, in your upper jaw as well as in the lower jaw. Okay, so I have mentioned the dental formula 2123 by 2123, and the chewing action of your teeth will help in mastication of our food. Okay, that will enable the food to get swallowed up very easily. When you look at our tongue, when we talk about our tongue, okay, you see tongue is a freely movable muscular organ, and the floor of the oral cavity is where the origin of the tongue is. Okay, this muscular tongue seems to get attached to the oral cavity by a muscular structure which is called as frenulum. Okay, frenulum is a muscular structure that will link our tongue to the floor of the oral cavity. Okay, and when you look at the upper surface of the tongue, as I told you, there are certain projections, there are certain bud-like structures, okay, which are called as the papillae, okay, and these papillary structures will bear the taste buds. Okay, tongue is a sense organ for taste, okay, and these sensing of food or tasting of food is with the help of taste buds that are getting located on the papillae of our tongue. Papillae are just small projections. They are a kind of how to say, minute in swellings on our tongue where we have the taste buds. So the taste buds will help in tasting the food. And when you look at the oral cavity, okay, after the oral cavity, there is a short tubular structure which is called as the pharynx. And when you look at this pharynx seems to be a common passage, okay, for both food as well as the air. So you see the digestive system is connected with the respiratory system. Okay, so the respiratory organ, which is the lungs, okay, the tracheal pipe has its connection with the pharynx, as well as the esophageal connection, which is the food pipe, is also having a connection with our pharynx. Okay, so you see the esophagus and the trachea. Esophagus is the food pipe and trachea is the windpipe, opens into the pharynx. Both these pipes getting opened into the pharynx. So there occurs a problem, isn't it? So what is happening during the process of inspiration and what is happening during the process of expiration? There is a cartilaginous flap-like structure which is called as epiglottis. Okay, epiglottis is just like a muscular flap. Okay, flap means a kind of lid. Okay, what we use for closing our bottles. Okay, we use a lid, isn't it, to a cap or something like a lid to close a bottle. It is just like a cap or a bottle, okay, and it is a flap-like structure, and it is what is called as epiglottis. It would prevent the entry of food into the glottis, which is the opening of the windpipe during the process of swallowing. Okay, so when we swallow food, there is a structure or there is a cap-like structure which is called as epiglottis, and this epiglottis will cover a structure which is called as glottis. Okay, and this glottis, the glottis is the opening of the windpipe. Okay, so there is a glottis like this. Okay, the glottis is like this, and there is an epiglottis over it. Okay, glottis, this is glottis, and this is what is epiglottis. And whenever we eat, okay, whenever we eat, this epiglottis would cover up the glottis. Okay, so that the food will not move into the respiratory system. Otherwise, it would get choked up. Okay, the food might get choked up in the respiratory tract or in the windpipe. Okay, during the process of swallowing. Just to prevent that, this flap flap-like structure would cover the glottis. Okay, glottis is the opening of the windpipe. Okay, and that process of choking is getting prevented. And when you look at esophagus is again a thin, long tube, okay, which is the food pipe, and it extends posteriorly, passing through the neck, thorax, and the diaphragm. Okay, so it has its location partly in the neck, followed by the thorax and in the diaphragm. Okay, so esophagus has its location starting from the neck. It is a continuation of the pharynx. Okay, so you see esophagus getting located in the neck, thorax, and the diaphragm. And esophagus would lead to a bag-like structure which is J-shaped, and it is what is the stomach. Okay, stomach. So this esophageal structure, okay, or this esophagus will regulate the opening of the esophagus into a stomach. Okay, there is a structure which is called as the muscular sphincter. There are sphincter muscles that regulate the opening of esophagus into the stomach. So at the junction where the esophagus opens into the stomach, there is a muscular structure, and that is what is called as the gastroesophageal muscular sphincter. And this muscular sphincter will regulate the opening of esophagus into the stomach region. Okay. So whenever there is a entry of food, this muscular sphincter will open up, or the space will get extended. Okay. And there is a free flow of food into the stomach region. Let us continue. This is how the stomach looks like. So when you look at the stomach, it is, we'll just look at the location It is located on the upper left portion of the abdominal cavity. Okay, so somewhat in the upper region of the abdominal cavity, you have this bag-like structure, which is the stomach. And when you look at the stomach, it again has three major parts in it. There is a cardiac portion, and there is a fundic region in it, and also there is a pyloric region in it. Okay, three different regions. Okay, the cardiac region is the region, okay, into which the esophagus opens. Okay, so here you have the esophageal sphincter muscles, okay, that will regulate the opening of the esophagus into the stomach. Okay, so this region is what is the cardiac region. So cardiac region has nothing to do with the heart, okay, but here this cardiac region is the region where the esophagus getting opened into the stomach. And there is a region which is the fundic region, okay, which is the anterior region of the stomach. This is the fundus region. This is the anterior region of the stomach. And at the posterior region, there is a small broad structure which is called as the pyloric region. The pyloric region seems to be the starting point for the small intestine. Okay, so these are the three major structures of a stomach, which is the J-shaped region or a bag-like structure. So you have the anterior region, which is the fundic region, the middle region, or it seems to be the starting point of the stomach, where it has its origin from the esophageal sphincter muscles, and that is what is the cardiac region. And following the cardiac region, there is another structure which is called as the pyloric region. The pyloric region will lead to the small intestine. Are you all there? Any doubts till this? These are very simple structures. That's why I'm just highlighting on the important things. Any doubts that you have to ask me? Any of you?
No, ma'am.
So we saw the starting point of the alimentary canal, which is the oral cavity or the buccal cavity. And we saw structures which are inside the buccal cavity, that is about the teeth as well as the tongue. And then we moved on to the pharynx, okay? And we saw structures like the glottis and the epiglottis there. And then we proceeded with the esophagus, and then we moved on to the stomach. Okay, so in the stomach, we have three different regions: the fundic region, the cardiac region, and the pyloric region. Anything that you have to ask me? Is it clear to all of you? Shall we proceed? Just give me a signal. Say just yes or no or anything. You can
Yes,
even type
ma'am.
it in the chat box. Yes, no, yes. Some response, children. I'm unable to hear you people. I really don't know why. Yes. Could you please type it in the chat box? Okay, thank you, Darshini. Okay, we'll proceed. Okay, so when you look at the small intestine, okay, so this region is quite long. Okay, this is the most highly coiled and the longest region of our alimentary canal, and it even has three major regions in it. Okay, a U-shaped structure, which is the duodenum, a long coiled middle portion, which is the jejunum, which is the longest region of our small intestine, and the much highly coiled region, which is the ileum. Okay, so these are the three basic structures of our small intestine. Okay, jejunum, and ileum. Okay, duodenum, jejunum, and the ileum. So duodenum is the starting point of small intestine. So you see, here you have again the sphincter muscles. So sphincter muscles, you have to remember that the sphincter muscles are the muscles which can contract and increase the surface area. Thereby the area of absorption or their area of holding can be enlarged. Okay, the surface area for having the food could be enlarged. Okay, so that is what is the role of sphincter muscles, and also it could control the opening as well as the closing of the opening. Okay, the opening could be let open or it could be closed with the help of these sphincter muscles. So we even saw a sphincter muscle sometime before. Can you tell me where is it located? Where is the sphincter muscles located other than this pyloric sphincter? Which region did we come across?
Ma'am, for stomach.
Yes. Which region did we come across this sphincter muscle? Just before some time, 2-3 slides back. Okay, just have a look at this. Muscular sphincter or the esophageal and the stomach junction. Okay, so you have this muscular sphincter on the esophageal and the stomach junction. Just similar to that, we have a pyloric sphincter, which is at the opening of the stomach into the duodenum, which is the first part of the small intestine. So there even you have the sphincter muscles, which are called as the pyloric sphincter. Okay, so here the pyloric region is the posterior region of the stomach, and there you have the sphincter muscles, and they are what is called as the pyloric sphincter muscles, and that open into the duodenum. Okay, duodenum, and then you have the ileum. Okay, so ileum opens into the large intestine. Okay, and the large intestine has three different parts: cecum, colon, and the rectum. Okay, cecum, colon, and the rectum. When you look at cecum is a small blind sac. Okay, and it has some importance because it hosts some symbiotic microorganisms. Cecum is a region where we have certain symbiotic microorganisms. Do you know what is the symbiotic association? Any one of you? Why should we have certain microbes within our body? Symbiotic relationship. Yes, answers please. Why should we have symbiotic microbes in the cecum of our large intestine? Or can you please tell me what is the symbiotic relationship? Okay, so this kind of microbial habitat, which is the cecum. Okay, human beings, we too have cecum, but it seems to be a rudimentary structure because it has lost its function. Whereas when you look at the ruminant animals like the cows, okay, there you have the symbiotic microbial association playing a very major role. Okay, so here you have certain independent microorganisms, okay, which are in symbiotic relationship, and these microorganisms, okay, help in the absorption of certain nutrients, okay, like the absorption of certain vitamins like vitamin K or vitamin B, okay, and they even can synthesize these vitamins, like the bacteria which is E. coli or Escherichia coli. Okay, these microbes, they have their ability to synthesize certain vitamins within the cecum of the ruminant animals like vitamin B12 and vitamin BK. Okay, and also this ruminants will help will make use of these symbiotic microbes for assimilating their digested digested food material. Okay, so we have different forms of symbiotic microbes. Okay, so symbiotic microbes, they live in association with the host. Okay, they live in association with the host, and here you see the human beings as well as the ruminant animals have a cecum. Okay, this cecum is the region where it hosts certain kinds of symbiotic microorganisms. And also you see on the large intestine, you also have certain finger-like projections. Okay, and these narrow finger-like projection, okay, is what is called as the vermiform appendix. Okay, and this vermiform appendix is also a vestigial organ in the case of human beings. Vestigial organs are the organs which have lost their function in the due course of evolution. Okay, so cecum. So from the cecum, there is a finger-like projection that is coming out, and that is what is called as vermiform appendix, and that is totally a vestigial organ or an organ that has lost its function in the case of human beings. And when you look at the cecum would open into the colon. Okay, colon, and this colon has three parts in it. Okay, one is the ascending colon, then it is the transverse colon, and at last you have a descending part in it. So ascending colon, transverse colon, and a descending part in it. So I will just explain here in this structure. So look at this. So this is the large intestine, and the large intestine you have a cecum over here, and you can just locate the finger-like projection. That is what is the vermiform appendix. Okay, it is a totally vestigial organ. And following that you have the colon, and the colon even has three different parts in it. One is the ascending colon. Okay, ascending colon is the starting colon which comes down, and there is a colon which is just forming an arc-like structure, and that is what is the transverse colon. Okay, and the hind region is what is the descending colon which descends downwards. And you see the descending colon would end up in a sac-like structure which is called as rectum, okay, where the undigested fecal material gets stored up temporarily, and the fecal material will be expelled outside through an opening to the exterior, which is anus. Okay, so this is a basic simple digestive structure, or the structure of the alimentary canal, which we have been learning from our lower classes. Okay, but as we learn the process of digestion, we should know the structure only, then we will be knowing what process or what kind of mechanical or biochemical event is happening in which region of our body. All right, so when you look at the wall of our alimentary canal, so as we saw in our previous classes, in the previous class I was talking something about, I was telling you about the structural organization in animals, and there we saw different types of tissues, isn't it? We saw epithelial tissue, we saw connective tissue, we saw neural tissue, we saw muscular tissue. Okay, and when we were seeing about the epithelial tissue, we saw simple epithelial tissues as well as compound epithelial tissues, and the epithelial tissues, they form the major covering part of our body. Okay, whereas the connective tissues, they connect the different regions of our body. All right, so when you look at the walls of the alimentary canal, okay, there you see it is just a region which has 4 different layers in it. Okay, so from the esophagus to the rectum, okay, the internal alimentary canal has 4 different structures in it. The outermost region is the serosa region, the middle one is the muscular region, and below the muscular region there is a region which is called as the submucosa, and the innermost region is what is the mucosal region. So at this point of time, you will have to remember the innermost region is the mucosal region. Okay, the outermost region is the serosa region. Okay, it is just like a dead epithelial tissue, and below that you have the muscular region, and above below the muscular region you have a submucosal region, and below the submucosal region you have the mucosal region. Hope you are able to follow me. Okay, so mucosal region seems to be the innermost region, and the serosa region is the outermost region. Serosa is the outermost region, mucosa is the innermost region. So starting from our alimentary canal till the rectum of starting from the esophagus till the rectum of our alimentary canal, the entire region is lined up by the mucosal membrane. Okay, mucosal membrane. There are different functions for this mucosal membrane to perform. Okay, it majorly plays a role in trapping up any kind of unwanted foreign particles. Also, the digestive action of hydrochloric acid, the excess acidity of hydrochloric acid will be prevented with the help of this mucosal tissue. Or you can just imagine, below the mucosal tissue you have a submucosal tissue, and what is below the submucosal tissue? There is a region of muscle. Okay, there is a muscular region. So you can just imagine the excess acidity that is getting secreted from the stomach, the hydrochloric acid can degrade the muscles if they come in contact with each other. Okay, so the hydrochloric acid can act upon the muscles and degrade the muscles. Okay, so just to prevent that, in our alimentary canal, from the esophageal region to the rectum, it is all over surrounded, or it is all over covered by a clear stretch of mucosal tissue. Okay, and when you look at the serosa region, it is the outermost region. I told you it is made up of a layer of epithelium. Okay, it is basically protective in function, and it is also lined up with certain connective tissues. Okay, so there are connective tissues as well as epithelial tissues in the serosa region, which is the outermost region of the alimentary canal. Okay, or the wall of the alimentary canal. When you look at the muscles, okay, please remember the muscles that you see in the alimentary canal is the smooth muscles. Okay, they are the smooth muscles, and they seem to be arranged into an inner circular and the outer longitudinal layer. Okay, so just look at this. The structure will explain you. The outermost region is the serosa region, which is made up of epithelial as well as the connective tissue, and below that you have a region which is the muscular region, where you have 2 different sets of muscles. One is the outer longitudinal muscular structures, and You see in the inner region, the muscles are seen to be arranged in a circular way. Okay, so you have circular muscles as well as the straight longitudinal muscles. So all these two layers of muscles will make up the muscular layer of the alimentary canal. And below the muscular layer, you have a region which is the submucosal region. This is where the submucosa is located, and below the submucosa, you have a clear mucosal region. And inner to the mucosa, you have the lumen, where you have all the secretions getting poured up, and also your food getting acted up by the digestive enzymes. Okay, so as you have these protective layers, okay, starting from the outermost serosa, then muscle layer, the submucosal layer, and the mucosal layer, okay, the digestive and enzymes of the digestive juices will not corrode or will not degrade the muscular layer. Is that clear to you, every one of you? Yes. So this is the major role of the muscular or the mucosal layer within our intestine or within our entire alimentary canal as the stretch. Now, when you look at the submucosal layer, okay, this submucosal layer which is seen below the muscular layer, okay, see what is it made up of? It is made up of loose connective tissues, okay, and I believe you remember me talking about this loose connective tissue as well as the dense connective tissue. Just imagine how the fibroblasts are located here. So you see here in the loose connective tissues, there are certain nerves, blood as well as lymph vessels. Okay, so this layer, the submucosal layer, is not just a layer without any function. It is also made up of loose connective tissues, and there are nerves supplying blood, nerves that supply the neurons. Then there are blood vessels as well as there are lymphatic vessels. And when you look at the duodenum, okay, in duodenum, glands are also present in the submucosa. Okay, so especially in the duodenal region of our small intestine, there are certain glands that are seen in the lining in the submucosal region. And when you look at the innermost region is the lumen of the alimentary canal. The innermost region seems to be the lumen of the alimentary canal, and it is the mucosal layer. Okay, so here you see this layer is not a uniform layer, whereas it is irregular, okay, because it has large number of folds in it in the stomach and small finger-like projections called the villi in the small intestine. Okay, I'll come back to this picture. So this is what is the representation of the gut region or this region. So the submucosal tissue and the mucosal tissue, okay, their margin is not so regular. Okay, they have a very, very irregular margin. Okay, their margin is not smooth. Okay, their margin seems to be highly irregular. Okay, and also the inner mucosal tissue. The mucosal tissue also seems to have an irregular pattern of inner arrangement. Okay, can you tell me why is it so? Why is it so? Why should the mucus layer be irregular in its inner arrangement? Yes. Disha, Nitish, Neha, Darshini.
Ma'am, to hold the food.
Why is it so? No idea. Why should the mucus layer be having folds like this? It can be a smooth layer just like this, isn't it? It could be just a smooth layer of tissue, okay, just having a structure like this. But you see, it is not a smooth surface like this, but it is a highly irregular structure having lot of invaginations or curves like this. Why is it so? Especially that you see on the inner region of the gut or on the alimentary canal of the stomach.
Because of the presence of
okay, so here you see these irregular folds, they are called as the rugae. Okay, and these rugae will increase the surface area. Okay, how much of our food we eat, our stomach is able to accommodate it. And that is because of this irregular folds, which are called as the rugae. Okay, the rugae will increase the surface area. Okay, whether it could be a reservoir where the food is getting stored up like stomach for a particular period of time, or it could be on the small intestine where you have the finger-like foldings, which are called as the villi, which increases the area of absorption, which also plays a major role in absorption of nutrients. Okay, so here the folds are the inner region is not a smooth region, whereas it is a highly irregular region where you have different folds, and that is the reason why it has folds in it. Okay, so we'll continue. We'll just highlight on the structure and we will just finish it off before moving on to the digestive glands. Okay, so when you look at the cells that line the villi, so villi you see it in the small intestine. Okay, so the cells that line the villi, they produce numerous microscopic projections, okay, which are called as microvilli, okay, giving a broader appearance. Okay, so when you look at the small intestine, it is just a very thin tube, but it has these associated structures in it, like the villi and the microvilli, and that would increase the surface area, giving a broader space, giving a broader appearance. Okay, the major function or the major reason why it has this appearance is that to increase the surface area enormously. Okay, so even if we eat more or even if we don't eat more, okay, these structures will give a enormous area of storage or enormous area of absorption. If it is in the stomach, it is the region where the food is getting temporarily stored up. Okay, and once the process is complete, the digestive action is complete, the food slowly moves on to the small intestine. We will learn these stories in our next classes. So as it moves there, it increases the surface area. And also when you look at this villi, the villi are supplied with a large number of capillaries. Okay, and there is a lymph vessel which is called as the lacteal. Okay, look at this. This is an enlarged view of a single villi. Okay, there is a vessel which is called as the lacteal, which is running through the center of each of the villi. Okay, and there are blood vessels also getting supplied to each of the finger-like projection, like we have the capillaries. So the villi are supplied with a network of capillaries, okay, like the arteries and the veins, and there is a large vessel in the center, which is a lymphatic vessel, and that is what is called as the lacteal. And also when you look at the mucosal epithelium, there are important cells which are called as the goblet cells, okay, and these goblet cells are required for the synthesis of mucus, okay, that helps in lubrication as well as from the protection of the digestive enzymes. Okay, and also the mucus would form glands in the stomach which are called as the gastric glands, and there are certain crypts means spaces in between the villi in the intestine, and these crypts are called as the crypts of Lieberkühn. Okay, crypts of Lieberkühn, or the spaces, the crypts of Lieberkühn, or the spaces that are seen between the villi. Look at this. This is one villi and this is the other villi. So there are spaces between the villi, and these spaces are what are called as the crypts or the crypts of Lieberkühn. Okay, crypts of Lieberkühn. Okay, all the four layers show modifications in different parts of the alimentary canal. Means the outer xerosa layer, below you have the muscular layer, the submucosal layer, and the mucosal layer. The regions remain the same, but they have some structural modifications. They exhibit a kind of structural modifications. So that is all with the digestive structure. So we will have a quick recap of what we have seen. So we just started with the structure of the alimentary canal, starting with the opening, that is the mouth. What are all the associated structures in the mouth? Okay, so you have teeth in the mouth which are located on the socket of the jaw, and we saw the different types of dentition. Okay, we saw the dental formula. Please go through the slides, and in case if you have some doubt, please get cleared now itself. After seeing about the oral cavity, we moved on to the next region, which is the pharynx. Okay, this pharynx seems to be a common passage for both food and air. So at the time of swallowing, there is a structure which is called as epiglottis that closes the glottis. Glottis is the opening of the windpipe, okay, during the process of swallowing. In order to prevent the food getting choked up, okay, epiglottis will close up the glottis. Okay, so there is no mixing up of air with the food. And following the pharynx, you have esophagus, and then you have stomach, the different structures in the stomach, and then the small intestine, different regions in the small intestine, then the large intestine, three different parts in the large intestine: colon, cecum, rectum, and then the muscular region of the alimentary canal, xerosal layer, muscular layer, submucosal layer, mucosal layer. Then we saw about the villi of the small intestine. Yes, that is with the alimentary canal. Of the alimentary canal. Do you have any doubts to clarify? Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Please ask me if you have something that is not understandable. Yes. Questions, please. Disha, Nitish, Neha, Darshi.
No doubts, ma'am.
Is it alimentary canal, structure of alimentary canal? Only if you know the structure of the alimentary canal, we will be able to proceed with the process of digestion. We have not exactly come to a topic. Okay, this is basic. This is the basic structure of the alimentary canal. Then we will have to proceed with how the process of digestion is taking place, and at last how the process of absorption is taking place. Okay, so in case if you don't have anything to clarify, shall we stop for the day?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, we'll just conclude here, and I'll meet you tomorrow in my class. Okay, thank you all for joining. If you have some doubt,